All right, I'm going to get you to think about this. Would you have thought any differently if when Phoebe introduced a Muay Thai fighter, would you have thought differently if it was a male that walked out here? But no, you got someone in a dress. Okay, so I'm a Muay Thai fighter. Before I tell you my story, I just want you to keep thinking about whether it would make any difference to you if there was a man up here talking to you about being a fighter. Okay. Life doesn't always go according to plan. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Don't get yourselves punched in the face. So I'm going to tell you my story about the first time I got knocked out cold in a fight. So I remember that fight. I was up against a more experienced fighter. I went into the fight nervous as usual. I was composed. But I took comfort in the fact that I had the best cornerman in the world behind me. I had support from my friends and family from all around. So I went into that ring. The plan was, stay calm, be in control, listen to my cornerman. That was the plan. So the bell rang, and it started the fight. I remember I got startled because my opponent came charging right in at me. She was ready to kill me with a barrage of punches and kicks. So in Muay Thai, you've got 8 limbs. They call it the art of 8 limbs. You can use your hands for punches. You can use your legs for kicks. You can elbow someone in the face, give them a rip in the face. You can knee them in the body, get them a little bit winded. Please don't try this on the person next to you, okay? So, my opponent she was aggressive. The bell rang and she came charging in at me. I got shocked. It lasted about 2 seconds, thankfully. Then I remembered my plan. It was, I used my legs to push her away. It's called a push kick. So same thing, don't try this again. You push your leg out as the person's walking in at you, and you basically put them off momentum. So then they stumble a little bit. When they stumble, that's when you land your own punches and your own kicks. Also, since she liked coming in at me, right, I gave her a hug. In Muay Thai, it's called a clinch. So you lock someone in on their necks, you try to create some space, and you try to knee them in the body. And in Muay Thai, you usually get quite a fair bit of points from the knees. So that was my plan. Pushing her away, grabbing her, giving her some knees to the body. So that first round was over in 2 minutes, it was. So after that 2 minutes, I was pretty sure, until today, I'm pretty sure I won that first round. So during the round break, my coaches were telling me, you're doing the right thing, stick to the plan. So then second round started, and I stuck to the plan. It was still the same push kicks, it was still the knees. And then I remember the cold, soggy floor. I have no idea basically that whole bit was a missing bit in my life. So I woke up on the cold, soggy floor. My cornermen were around me, trying to wake me up. Someone was trying to carry me out of the ring. So pretty much that evening went by in a blur. So when I finally, got my head a little bit clearer, things suddenly became a little bit clearer to me. I remember being disappointed. You see, it would have probably been a little bit of an easier pill to swallow if I had fought the whole fight, lost on points to someone who was more experienced. That would have been something that would have been easier for me. But I got knocked out cold, face down, in front of a bunch of people. And then I had to go back to training. Now, before I took on that fight, I already knew that the month after, I was going to be in Thailand. It was going to be my first professional bout as a Muay Thai fighter. So a professional bout in Muay Thai means you don't have any protection. You go in there, just gloves. You go in for 5 rounds with your opponent, and good luck to you from there. So I had to get back to training, although I didn't want to. After being knocked out, kind of knocks a little bit of confidence out of you at the same time. So I had to get back to training. Pretty sure I didn't really have my heart in it when I went to Thailand, but I had to do it anyway. The flights were booked. Didn't want to let my coaches down. I didn't want to appear defeated. So I went ahead with that fight in Thailand. No prizes for guessing how I did there. I lost that fight again, So it was now 2 successive losses in a row. So if I didn't think that getting knocked out in Singapore would do my confidence in, I came back from Thailand at an all-time low. So having lost 2 fights in a row, I went back to training again. So the week after, I kept going for training, thinking, the next fight will be better. You'll keep getting better. But when your heart isn't there, when you don't really want to do it, you're not gonna achieve success. So there were days when I would pack my bags, go to the gym, and as soon as everyone was starting to get warmed up for training, I took my bag and I left the gym. It's like, I'm not doing this today, I'm going home. So, yeah. And then, it hit me, maybe I needed a break. So I took a break. After 2 consecutive fight camps, I took a break. I went out with my friends, realized I missed my friends a lot while I was training. And I think after a few months, after a year actually, I missed it. I missed the thrill of stepping into a ring. I missed the feeling of your muscles and your lungs on fire when you're training. So I went back. And this time I went back not because I had to. I didn't go back for anyone. I didn't go back to prove myself, but I went back because I loved my sport. So this year, this last April, I went back to Thailand. The very same ring that I lost my first professional fight in last year. I went back there, and I won this time. I won that fight in the second round. Thank you. So I won that fight by a technical knockout. And I low-kicked my opponent in the thigh a few consecutive times, and she couldn't stand because I had given her a dead leg. I feel really terrible for that now. I always feel terrible after a fight. But yeah, I've gone back to winning ways now. I've lost some fights, I win some. And as much as I wish that I had won those fights that I've lost, when I look back and think about how much of a better fighter I am now than I was in the past before getting knocked out cold, I wouldn't trade the experience of losing for anything. You see, it's not the adversity that defines who we are, it's how we react to the adversity that does. So losing my fights, all those losses, all those fights I've lost, doesn't define who I am. What defines me is how I reacted to the adversity. And that gives me a story to tell. You wouldn't have known I got knocked out cold if I didn't tell you my story. And if I didn't get knocked out cold, I wouldn't have a story to tell you. Okay, so no matter whatever it is, you would have plans. You'd have plans for your career. You'd have plans to buy your first home. You'd have plans to retire comfortably. Every day we make plans. You made plans last night to come here to TEDxUPM. You make plans for your evening later on. What are you going to do this evening? What then happens when your plans don't happen? What happens when things don't go according to plan? So I just want you to remember that it's not the adversity, it's not the challenges that define us, it's how you react to it that defines who you are. When you love something so much, when you live on passion, I live so much on passion. In Muay Thai, when you're training for a fight camp, you train 6 days a week. Your warm-up would be 7-kilometer run, and then you've got 15 minutes of skipping on the ropes. You've got 5 minutes of shadow boxing before you actually start training. The training's then 6 rounds of 4 minutes on the pads. You've got a minute break in between. You then spar with your mates for 3 rounds of 4 minutes, a minute's rest in between, and then you've got 15 minutes of clinching, which if you remember, it's where you're almost hugging someone and just getting knees in your body for 15 minutes. And then you still have to finish off with conditioning. So conditioning would be 500 knees on the sandbag, 2 minutes worth of push kicks on the sandbag, 500 sit-ups, where someone's dropping pads right in your stomach, just to condition your abs, for taking punches. So that's training. And if you don't have passion, you're never going to live through that. So it was only passion that got me through all those fight camps. And if you want to achieve something, there is no shortcut. It can be hard, plans change. You want to achieve something. I wanted to win my first professional fight, and I lost. But I didn't just give up there. It was passion that got me through to see the second fight. Sometimes you have to take a break. You've got to step back. Give yourself a break, catch up on life, catch up with your friends, catch up with your family. But if you're truly living on passion, if it's something you have so much passion about, no matter how long it takes, you will get there. So it took me a year to win my first professional fight, but I did this year. Now, I've been talking a lot about fighting. I've been talking about being in the ring. I've taken you through some Muay Thai moves, which I hope you don't try on anyone. Did it make any difference that I was a girl standing up here talking to you about Muay Thai? So let's just be honest now. Hands up, if during this entire time I was speaking, did you think about, what if it was a man out there? Did anyone think any differently if it was going to be someone else, not in a dress, being out here talking about Muay Thai? One person. You know, this talk that I was supposed to give was supposed to be about crushing stereotypes, talking about breaking boundaries as a female fighter. You know what? I think we've all just broken that stereotype here. No one thought any differently that I was a girl in a dress talking about fighting. Would have been the same if it was a man talking about Muay Thai. So well done, everyone. You've all started on breaking the stereotype of fighters. Gender biases still exist in my sport. I am lucky that I live in Singapore, and where we organize fights, no one really talks about you being a female fighter, no one talks about the male fighters. But where Muay Thai comes from, in Thailand, the very first time I fought in Thailand, I was quite surprised because in Singapore, a lot of us climb over the top rope to get into the ring. But when I first got to Thailand, I realized that women weren't allowed to climb over the ropes to get into the ring. We had to crawl under the last rope. Also in Thailand, there are two major stadiums in Bangkok which host sort of the biggest Muay Thai fights. These are the Lumpini and the Rajadamnern stadiums. And in these big stadiums, only male fights are allowed. Female fights aren't allowed to be hosted in those stadiums. Maybe one day it will, maybe now that we're starting to break stereotypes, maybe one day I will be allowed to fight in Lumpini. That would be a dream. It may not go according to plan, but still there's no shortcuts. Gender biases in sport, that still exists. We're going to have to work our way to eradicate the stereotypes, but I think we're starting that just today. Thank you, everyone.